Are you new to an area or maybe an immigrant moving to a new country that you're not familiar and you have no friends or family around? Well, Andrea Blum talks about her experience when it came to this. She moved to Canada in 2007, got her real estate license in 2011 with no friends or family around whatsoever. And she has grown and scaled her business to a 6 and 7 figure business, all on her own, being able to step outside that comfort zone. So she dives deep into her process and what she has done to get to where she is at now. She also has a coaching program and different videos that you can watch to help learn and know more about real estate, but also as an entrepreneur and a salesperson. So take a listen and go out there and check out her website to learn more of what all of this looks like. Hello, fellow mompreneurs. Welcome to the Real Moms Podcast, the go-to space for resilient entrepreneurs who are striving for abundant living. I'm your host, Shay Spitz, a mompreneur and a realtor here in Columbus, Nebraska. Are you a mom juggling the hustle of entrepreneurship, family life, and personal growth? Well, you're in the right place. On this podcast, we dive deep into the real, unfiltered stories of incredible women who are navigating the journey of mompreneurship. We'll celebrate the victories, share practical insights, and acknowledge that it's okay to face challenges along the way. Success isn't about the destination. It's about the journey and the growth we experience as we balance our careers and the chaos of family life. Whether you're a seasoned mompreneur or just starting on this exciting path, join me and our amazing guests as we explore what it truly means to be a resilient entrepreneur striving for abundant living. Get ready for real, raw, and remarkable conversations that will inspire and uplift you. Because here at the Real Moms Podcast, we believe in the power of community, authenticity, and the strength that comes from embracing the journey together. So grab your coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's dive into the world of mompreneurship. This is the Real Moms Podcast, where we celebrate the hustle, honor the struggle, and thrive as resilient entrepreneurs living abundantly. Welcome to another episode of Real Moms Podcast. I like to start every podcast off with a motivational quote, and today's quote is, "Your mindset determines your future more than your circumstances." So today I have Andrea Blum. She is a real estate broker serving the Toronto GTA area for over a decade. Ranked top 1% Toronto Realtor and top 5% Canada Realtor for over a decade. Andrea has sold over $500 million in sales volume as a solo agent. She was awarded recipient of the Lifetime Award of Excellence in 2020, as well as Years of Service Award in 2021. She's part of the top tier of Canada, and her social media account is ranked number 14 in Canada. Andrea is the founder of Build All Real Estate Coaching Events Company, where she is helping agents scale to 6 and 7 figures through her unique sales and marketing strategies. So Andrea, thank you so much for being here. Sounds like you have accomplished a lot in really a short amount of time.
Thank you for having me. Yes, I don't know if short amount of time, but been in the business for almost 15 years now.
Right. And I'm sure it probably feels so much longer, but it does sound, I know 15 years, it goes by so fast though. Like it does seem like a long time, but it goes by so fast.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me, okay, so now are you originally from Canada? What was your journey like into the real estate industry?
No, I'm not. I mean, you can hear it from my accent. Hard to hide it, but I wouldn't. I'm from Romania, originally from Romania. I moved here when I was 27 years old in 2007.
Wow.
And yeah, I came here, and basically everything that I've done back home, it was equal with zero. I had to start from scratch, and what I literally just Googled. I know it's not a very um, fancy way of finding your job or your passion or what you want to do in life, but as a new mom, I had a 5 years old kid on my hip coming here and needing to accommodate her needs, and being with no family here, it was very important for me to find a type of job that will give me the flexibility to be around my kid and in the same time to make enough money to support our lifestyle.
Right. So what brought you to Canada, especially when you didn't have any family?
Well, it's a little bit of a story there for anyone who's an immigrant or is coming from a communist country. you have this dream as a kid, you know, growing up in a communist country, that you're going to be in a different kind of environment where you have different opportunities for you, for your children. So it was kind of my dream since I was born, because I was born into that culture of my parents talking about it, my grandparents talking about it. We always thought that the Americans will come one day and save us, and you know, that won't be in the communist country. So it kind of gets ingrained into your head that there's more opportunities out there around the world, and the world seems to be so much bigger when you're confined, you know, and you live in a certain type of lifestyle, you know, no food, no lights, no heat, no opportunities, being scared of the establishment. So you have this dream that the life is so much bigger than what you live. So I grew up with that. My parents always hoped to move to United States. So when I was older enough, the revolution came and we weren't anymore in the same environment, but it already forced me into a way of having this strong desire to come on this side of the planet. So yeah, at some point, just I applied to become an immigrant here. It took about 4 years to be accepted, and after that, here it goes.
Wow,
I came here and started everything from scratch.
that is amazing. So I mean that takes a lot of courage. So you got there in 2007, and why didn't your family follow, or why was it just you, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't think, I think it was a very unilateral decision as me wanting to, actually when I told my parents that that's my dream and that's what I'm gonna do when I was like 12, when I started to verbalize the fact that I'm going to leave this country, everybody thought that I'm joking, that that's never going to happen. That's, you know, and then as time passes and I put myself in positions and opportunities that would allow me to do that. Everybody thought until the last second, the second probably I got in the plane, that that's never going to happen, that I'm not going to leave. So it's not that they weren't supportive. I think coming from their background, they didn't think that that's a possibility. And then after that, they didn't think that that was a good idea to leave and not have the family around and with the kids. So it was, you know, when you have a vision and when you have a dream and you want something, looking back right now, my daughter is 22, the one that I came with. She was 5 at the time. I was 27 and I had a kid of 5 years old. Looking back right now and looking at my child that's 22, I think that would scare me so bad, to think that my daughter would like to move on the other side of the planet. But th this is me. Like nobody can stop me. So
Right.
if I want something, I just go for it. Yeah.
Right. That's a great perspective to look at it. And so you moved there in 2007, and it took you 4 years to get your it took you 4 years, right?
Yeah, so I got my license in 2011. So in 2007, in July, we moved here, and then it took me basically 3.5 years until I got my license. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. So what did you do in those 3.5 years?
I worked at the mall as a salesperson, and
Okay.
um, I came from a totally, completely different background. So back home, I work in the movie industry as a special effect makeup artist,
Okay.
and I loved it. And I did very, very well. I worked on some of the most amazing movies, like feature movies with actors from Hollywood and all of that thing. And I became a key makeup artist actually in less than 2 years home. So I had a lot of opportunities because of that. And when I moved here, the idea was to continue to be in this industry because I had so many hours. So I didn't need to actually have apprenticeship or anything like that. And when I applied to be part of the union, because here it's unionized versus in Europe where it's not, you're basically there. You have to just prove that you are good at what you're doing, and your trajectory can be very fast the way, you know, depending on your skills. Here, I realized, wow, this is not a union, this is a monopole. Basically, I found my own I got in the union very fast because it was not needing for me to have 100 hours. I have thousands of hours. And when I got in the union, they told me that I can't actually work on the projects based on me applying. They're going to deliver to me the projects based on seniority. And I thought that that seniority had to do with the number of hours, not when you sign up for the union.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized very fast that that's not something that I would have accepted to live my life under. It was the biggest disappointment because I was very passionate about it and I was very good at what I was doing. And I quit. I said I'm okay. My passion is my passion, which means I'm going to bring it in any other environment that I go to. And if I need to start something else from scratch, I'll start something else. And I finished back home university in arts, bachelor in arts, and nothing mattered here in arts, like nothing. So I just Googled and I found real estate, and I was in sales for 3 years at the mall, and I was doing very, very well. I loved that it was paid on also on bonuses,
Yep.
and
Yep.
I would get bonuses every single day. So I was really, getting the feel of the fact that I like sales. And I just went home and I Googled and I said, what can I do that it's flexible, gives me a lot of money. I don't need to go to school because I don't have money, like stuff like that. And it came up, real estate, quite multiple times actually it came up. And there it was. I just said, okay, I'll do the school while I'm still working. And the second I finish, I quit the sales at the mall and I start door knocking.
Oh my gosh, that is quite the transition. I mean, just from where you were in 2007 to getting your license in 2011 to today, you know. And especially, I mean, how did you balance it all? Because especially when you are a first-time agent, there is a lot of hours that get put into it. Yes, real estate can allow you the flexibility, but when you are a new agent, you are a new entrepreneur, it is a grind. Like it is a grind. So how did you do that being on your own and having a daughter?
Yeah, it's a great question because I always said all real estate agents are working part-time because the other time they're spending and scrolling it on TikTok.
Mhm.
So I was very blessed with the fact that I didn't have my sphere. There was no sphere to work with. And I didn't really have a car that I could put buyers on. And I didn't have the flexibility of time to go with buyers. So when I looked at the business, I said, what's to be sold in this business? And I said, okay, so our product that we're actually working with, it's homes, houses. And I said, where are they? I need to work with sellers because buyers will require way too much time and at the time where I need to actually be with my daughter. So I don't even think I thought it was an inconvenience because it was just how do I adapt this to my what I need? And I went straight into working with sellers. So I would drop my daughter at school and then I would go literally in the same neighborhood, just door knocking and get sellers. The second I finish I would go home, do some follow up, and then I will pick up my daughter from home, and then I'll do more follow up, and then that's pretty much it. I would book most of my appointments between 9:30 to 3, like listing appointments, and
Mhm.
I can tell you that the first and not only that, I borrow money and I hire a coach because I said, I'm not going to do this by try and error. I need to figure out how to do this fast. So that helped me a lot because my English wasn't very good and I had a heavier accent than right now. And I had at the time, not anymore, but imagine I had a baby face. So I find myself that I need to figure out stuff from a coach much faster how to deal with objections.
Yeah.
So I hire a coach and I just like 14 listings just like that came to me in my first year just by door knocking. And it's incredible what in a price range that was higher at the time, like at the time it was $500,000.
Wow.
Now I'm still in the same neighborhood and the average is 1.5. So it was a lot of money coming from sales in the store. For me, it was a lot of money.
Right, that is.
Yeah.
That is a
And
lot.
15 years later, Yeah. And 15 years later, 10 doors later in investments. And just today we firm up on another property on the lake. So this business keeps on giving and giving and giving. And I can tell you how blessed I am to come across this amazing business. Yeah.
That's a beautiful, beautiful story. And I'm sure that there was a lot of heartache and trials and errors. Even though you did hire a coach, I'm sure you had a lot of struggles through all of that.
Yes, the struggles were to get used to the fact that you are in a country where you're alone. I think I underestimated when I moved here what it means to be alone and what it means to not fit in. I truly believe that once you're an adult and you're here, you're always going to be an immigrant, regardless of how much money you make, how many much friends you have, how much and it's not about feeling like somehow you're not welcome. It's
Right.
more of the fact that you're not there, not there. You're never going to feel at home. You're never going to be in your habitat. And it's funny because we talk about change, and I love change. I constantly change. I always change things. But there is some core things that belong to you where you grew up, where you grew up as a child, where you grew up as a teenager, and as a young adult, I was still there. Besides that, you don't have the same luxury of getting yourself in the car and going and have dinner with your mom. You don't have that. My sister is not here that we go and we do our nails together. There's certain type of subconscious comforts that they're completely gone when you're an immigrant. And I'm not complaining or dramatizing or being like a victim. It's just something that I didn't really thought through. And I think it's better that way because I don't think if you really take in consideration all of these things, you would be able to move and make these moves. You start to get used to it, but when times are challenging, they're heavy
Right.
because you would like to have that person to sit that you sits with your kid, and it's not a babysitter, it's a family member. It's
Mhm.
a different kind of feel that you have of comfort. It's easier to know that if your parents have a health issues that you can actually see them. So it's a lot to unpack as an immigrant, but looking back, I can tell you that it was the best thing, and I don't regret it. It was absolutely the best thing that happened to me, but it came at a cost. It wasn't cheap.
Right. And I think that's what people misunderstand is that like usually the a quote that I had heard is you make your worst day your best day. So you take that hardship, you take those struggles, and it takes you to where you're at today. And you would never change it and you think it's the best thing. Would you want to go through that first 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years? Probably not. Would you ever want to go through that again? Probably not. But it got you to where you're at today. Do you ever travel back to see your family or do they ever come visit you now?
Yes, they do. They came visit me. There were some times where they came and stay here for 3 months and help me. I go there to see them, for a week or two, and sometimes even three. But it's not the same. Like you get to see very little of what a normal interaction would be with your family.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't give you much time at all. Not at all. So tell me a little bit about where your business, like how you've grown from there and what you're doing today in comparison to, 10 years ago.
Yeah. So I started as a listing agent from day one, and for me, that was a blessing because it allowed me to grow and expand quickly. I am a huge believer. There's nothing wrong in working with the buyer, absolutely nothing wrong, but it's proven not to be efficient
Right.
and you can't really scale. So if you want to grow a team, if you want to expand, if you want your time back at some point, you must consider becoming a listing agent. So I was lucky that my business started right away in that way. So it allowed me actually to have a farming area because I door knock. At the time there was no social media to get your buyers or to talk, and have people coming to you. So I transitioned from being a solo agent into having a showing agent for my buyers. I kind of delegate my buyers to my all my buyers to a buyer agent, and that's how organically that.
Ah. Andrea, can you hear me? Oh, shucks. Dive on in. Okay, so we are back. We had a little bit of a technical fail, so we are going to jump back into this. Both Andrea and I both found out that we are both dyslexic. So I think actually I did hear or I read this one time that a lot of entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, like 80% of successful entrepreneurs are dyslexic. It is the craziest thing. So if you have any sort of educational struggles or anything like that, just know anything and everything is possible. You just have to learn to adapt to it.
100%. Yeah. If
Yeah.
anything, I think as dyslexic, we have a huge advantage because our brain needed to find out ways to cope with this disability. We develop strong pattern recognition.
Yes.
And that in sales is key because you see ways of anticipating your buyers and sellers into their needs or also even just questions that they may have that allow you to position yourself in a way that creates that trust and relationship and that rapport much faster. So if you ask me, I think that's an advantage. There's tons of disadvantages, don't get me wrong.
Right.
We need a lot of time compared with others. We may jump and talking at five things at the same time. Our minds can just jump like that, and it takes time to focus much harder. Reading, spelling, I cannot tell you on social media how much shit I get for the fact that I don't spell correctly. And I always said, yeah, I always said, if you are looking for an English teacher and tutor for your child, don't hire me. You want me to sell your house for the top value, just get used to the fact that I'm not going to spell. So one or the other, which one you desire. So there's advantages and disadvantages. Another huge advantage that I think dyslexics have is that we have a chip on our shoulder that was created by kids bullying us or teachers not being patient with us. And it's almost kind of like, I'll show you. I can do whatever I want, has nothing to do with my abilities. So that greed that we have comes somehow from that, what maybe at the time we felt like it was a challenge, to be a little bit different than the rest of the kids in the class, but put us in the position, so what? you
Right,
know?
right. I love that. I mean, just I learned a lot just from what you said there because the other day, like reading, being able to read people, I've always been very good at that. And we had a group chat the other day, and one of my co-agents, she said, "Hey, I have a question." She sent a picture of a house. I said, "Oh, okay. Well, that house, yes, it was going through foreclosure. They were able to sell it. Most homes that are going through pre-foreclosure don't actually go to auction." And then one of my other co-agents chimed in. She's like, "I'm still waiting for the question." I'm like, "Oh no, I already knew what she was going to ask." So
Exactly.
it was pretty funny. And I found out that my daughter is probably dyslexic because the other day she stepped on the scale and she's 10 and she goes, "Oh, I'm 27 pounds." I'm like, "What did you just say?" And I said, "Why don't you read that again?" And she's like, 27. I said, "No, read that again." And it was 72. And my husband just laughed. He goes, "You get that from your mom." And I'm like, "You're welcome. You're going to be successful. What can
Yes,
I say?" You
exactly.
know?
Exactly. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah. So, okay. So tell me a little bit about where your business is at now, how you've gotten to where you're at today, and where you see it going.
Yeah. So I transitioned organically. That's where we were left from being a solo agent into needing my time back because once you generate leads for sellers, you generate buyer leads. And that's the beauty of being a listing agent because you go and you prospect for one type of leads and then you get a package in there. So I transitioned in building a team. And at some point, I thought, okay, where am I going with this? And I thought, I'm going to open a brokerage. And I said, I'm going to be an independent and so on and so forth. And I looked into it and I said, oh, I'm not going to. Makes no sense. And then I said, I'll buy a franchise. And I was at the time with my brokerage for 13 years. So
Wow.
I thought, I like the brand. I've been with them. I didn't care for the brand, to be honest with you, because I created my own brand from the day one, and I could have been with anybody or open an independent, and it was still my name to it.
Mhm.
So I was okay with that. But as a franchise, I thought I'm going to get this one. And it was very convenient because my brokerage, my broker that I was very close with, wanted to retire, and there were 120 agents. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to retire Dale, and I'm going to take over his brokerage. And he came to me and he says, Andrea, I know you're enthusiastic and all of that, but at that time I started to do some sales meeting because I'm really passionate about actually teaching, and everybody knew that I was number one in the office and wanted to know how I'm doing it and stuff like that. So I said, oh, this is going to be amazing, and I'm going to train all of these people and they're going to be productive and blah blah. So my brokers, he says, I don't know what you're thinking, but you're making more money than me. And I said, it's impossible. You have 120 agents, blah, blah. So we got into a contract to look at his finances and to purchase his place. And then the way I went in, I went out and I said, I'm not purchasing this. This is a stupid business. Like, why would I do that? I'm much better off of what I'm doing right now. So it was a huge disappointment. And if you know me as a person, you would know that I'm not a depressed person. Like, I may be frustrated, I may be angry, I may have all the emotions in the world, but not depression.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, I was depressed. For a month, I was like, what am I going to do? Because I'm not going to sell homes for the rest of my life. That I can tell you 100%. And I was making a lot of money at the time. And I managed to work only 5 months. By that time, I was making that amount of money in 5 months, and the rest I was traveling in Italy and Michelin stars. Like, I had a lifestyle that I really enjoyed, and I said, I need to figure out something because I don't want to do this. So I was at the verge of leaving the industry. I said, I need to figure out something new. I need to figure out something that it's a business, not a very well paid job.
Mhm.
And that's where I was introduced to revenue share. And I said, wow, are you for real? Is that something offered to us? Is that something that we can actually work around and build with no liability, no time spent on the bureaucracy that I couldn't stand, and be profitable and have what it was important for me, location, freedom?
Mhm.
I'm on. So
Right.
that's how I transitioned to that. Between the time that I entered in that agreement for purchasing the brokerage until the time I actually, until now, basically, I already started my coaching programs. I already started coaching one-on-one. I started recording my listings, presentations, and all of that to teach agents. It was meant initially to be for my brokerage.
Mhm.
That's what it was initially. So I don't have to repeat myself for each agent. And then all of a sudden realize, wow, this is actually a true business model. This
Mhm.
is another leg of business that could be in real estate. And then without even having the intention, but by just doing it, it became one of my business pillars. The coaching and actually the one-on-one coaching. This is the last year that I'm coaching one-on-one, and then I'm done. And then everything is going to be group coaching and the online portion.
Right. And
So
I'm assuming that's because the one-on-one takes a lot more time. It's not as big of a return, I'm assuming. So then are you
correct.
with EXP or who are you with?
Initially, I jumped with EXP on board with EXP, and then I left and I joined Real.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Gotcha. Okay. And how long ago did you make that transition?
It's been exactly 2 days ago, 2 years since I moved
Oh,
to Real. Yeah.
oh, okay. I thought you say 2 days. I'm like, holy moly, you're jumping on a podcast now?
No,
Oh,
no, no,
what to
no.
do?
So I
Okay.
moved to Real exactly 2 days ago to the date, but 2 years ago.
Okay. And what made you make that transition?
I think there were a couple of things. I don't know if this should be part of the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, you
um,
can talk about it. You can talk about
yeah.
it.
The thing is, I think everybody has to find the place that they feel comfortable. I think I will always be very grateful for EXP to bringing this business model to us as an industry. So I would always give them credit for that. There were a couple of things that came in place that made me switch. And especially keep in mind that I had my team that I needed to kind of go around with, and that was heavy on my back. At the time I left EXP, I had almost 35 people. There was a lot of moving parts. But it just didn't fit with me the way Real ended up fitting. And it was a risk because it could have been just a hard sell on something that at the first glance looks very, very similar. And why would you do that and risk all of that? But I felt that more I started to look into Real and more I started to understand the differences, more it started to sit on me that I need to make this switch. So at the beginning, I dismiss it completely, the same way probably I dismissed for a couple of months when I heard about EXP. And I was being fed something in that regards, and I kind of like, okay, I said yes. I think at the time that I started to think for myself and consider it serious to have an open mind to listen, it became clear to me that it's something that I would like to explore. And at the time, not knowing if it's going to be the same thing, I said, even if it's the same and I make a mistake and I come back, I think it's something that I want to experience for myself and to be able to have that confidence to say that I've been in both places and I know what's happening and I know how I feel about it. So, but I know a lot of people that are with EXP, they're super happy. They're in a good place. They're in the right environment. So I would never uproot anybody from anything, but I can tell you that if I was me, even now being at Real and I'm very happy as an entrepreneur, I feel like it's my duty to constantly see what's the best alternative for me, regardless if it comes and it's almost like also a validation that if I come to the conclusion that I'm informed, but I still don't want to make any other moves, that I'm in the right place. But I feel like it's my duty as an entrepreneur to constantly be open-minded. So,
Right.
yeah. And now, in 2 years, we are almost 150 people. Yeah,
That's
super exciting.
amazing. I think so many agents get very comfortable with where they're at that they don't even really want to consider other options because they know the amount of work and exhaustion that does come with change. But most agents just they park their license with one broker and they are there for the rest of their lives. Like they are not wanting or willing to be open-minded. And I'm always open-minded. I'm always like, okay, what is the next best thing? Like what makes sense for me? Because what makes sense for you may not make sense for me. And
Exactly.
it's not always about am I a good fit for them, but are they a good fit for me too? So it's a little bit of give and take too. So tell me a little bit about invisible labor.
Invisible labor. Well, since we're on the podcast that it's really dedicated to mothers, not to exclude, single parents, male or fathers in families where, mothers are busy, that doesn't necessarily apply just to women, but traditionally, women take on that role of invisible labor in a household. And what I'm referring to, it doesn't necessarily have to be the cooking and the cleaning, which they are, and sometimes they're kind of equally divided with a partner, but there's so much more to it. Who's going to do the appointments for the dentist for the children? Who's going to pick up, drop off? Who's going to make sure that they have a new boots? I can go on and on. The list of invisible labor that we have to have it completed in a way or another, it's massive. And the reason I always start with that, even with my coaching, is if you don't understand your responsibilities in a household, they're going to always derail you from your business because we're in a business of rejection. So obviously you're going to pick up any other responsibility to kind of derail you and procrastinate on what you need to do. And when you don't do the things that you need to do for your family, you're going to feel guilty because you give time to your business. So having that clear understanding of what your family responsibilities are, including the invisible labor, which a lot of people don't take in consideration. They're just saying, oh, I need to drop off the kid and pick up the kid. There's so much more into what that means. I can go on and on, but I won't go into details in that. So being aware of all the operation side of your household
Mhm.
and what it looks like, and plan it in advance for the entire year, most of the time been very detailed. You know, if I plan on November for the with my team members, we're planning next year. We're going to plan when you're going to go on vacation, when you're going to go at the dentist, when most of the things that could be planned has to be planned. And
Mhm.
then you add in there your schedule, because you go from micro, which is planning your year, into planning your quarter, planning your month, planning your week. When you go micro, you have to plan in there your invisible labor, because if you don't plan it, it sits on your brain and
Mhm.
it's heavy. And before you know it, you're so exhausted and so overwhelmed that you're like, I can't do this.
Mhm. And
So
writing things down makes a huge difference. And that's something that I started, a couple years ago is one, planning my year. Two, I don't get as detailed as probably you do, but having my events planned out, having the different tables that I'm going to be attending and what are the dates of those. What am I doing for my clients? When are things getting sent out? But then you always want to plan your priorities and then plan your day and your schedule around that for your business.
100%. Yeah. Family comes first always.
It does. It does. And you have to, yeah, you want to you want to surround your people who also make family a priority. Because otherwise, if you surround yourself with people who don't make family a priority, or maybe they don't have a family, nothing wrong with that. But it makes business a little
Yeah.
bit tougher because they may not understand where you're coming from when you have to go pick up the kids or you have a date night planned or, whatever the case may be. Like they got school and they got homework and they got to eat and I got to be present, like not only physically, but mentally.
Mentally, yeah, and
Yeah.
emotionally, yeah.
Yeah. Big time. And writing things down, like even in business, but in your, personal life, writing things down makes such a huge relief on not off your shoulders, but off your mind. Like when people get so overwhelmed, write it down. Just start writing it down and going through your list on what you need to do. And it's like, whew, so much stress has been
Yeah,
relieved.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So now, Andrea, tell me, what is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self or maybe somebody who's new in the entrepreneurship world?
I have so many things over the years, coaching clients, myself, being coached, that I picked up on good things. But one thing I can tell you, and it's funny because I get this asked all the time, and there's only one thing that you need to do in order to achieve all the other ones, and that's emotional regulation. You
Yes.
just have to control your emotions, and then everything else will fall into places. So if I were to give an advice, I think to myself as a woman, I have to tell you that it was one of the advices that I received from one of my mentors at the beginning of my career when I was in film. Understand that our bodies are having such a roller coaster of hormones, and to understand your cycle will allow you to understand when you have high weeks of productivity,
Mhm.
when to be very kind to yourself, when to understand that you're going to have a week of the month that you're going to feel drained, doubtful, stupid, ugly, not enough, and that's okay. You're going to have a week that you're going to feel like you're on top of the world, and that's when you're going to push really, really hard, and you're going to push your business so much further because you know that that week is coming. So all of these details about yourself and how you function and how to regulate your emotions make a huge difference in becoming a great entrepreneur. But not only that, in this business, because it's such a roller coaster, it's going to affect your relationship with your spouse and your child. So if you don't know how to navigate your emotional roller coaster with this business together as a mother or as a female, on top of that, of your own hormones, which are ups and downs in a monthly basis, you're going to be a mess.
Mhm. Hmm.
So,
I always say
um,
emotional intelligence is what is the same thing as what you're referring to. That is a make or break in life, but business as
yeah,
well.
yeah. So that would be my advice. Understand and control your emotions. And I always say to agents, you're in a state frame right now that your priority shouldn't be prospecting, should
Hmm.
be getting back into the right emotions. And
Right.
if you need to have time to get there, and that's where you spend it, part of your business, it's part of your duty towards this business to spend your time in putting yourself in the right head frame, because the activities are not complicated. It's one of the simplest jobs out there, but it's a hard job because it involves a lot of emotions, and they're based on something fundamental, which is survival. In any other business, you don't act like that. Our business is based on rejection. In a tribe in ancient years, if you were rejected, you were dead. So
Hmm.
your mind and your body and your being does anything possible to fit in, to survive, to eat. Because if you're rejected, you're on the side of the road and you die. So if you're in this business, you have to learn that you to override your instincts,
Yeah.
and you have to become basically a little bit of a psychopath, like, yes, I'm going to go towards being rejected, towards what my brain is telling me every day, stay away from it. And
Mhm.
I have to go there with enthusiasm and to control my brain that, hey, if you get rejected, you're not dying. Okay, it's all good.
Hmm. Our brain
So
was created to protect ourselves and to stay in
yeah,
the fight or flight mode and to stay in survival mode. So it actually kind of works
yeah,
against us most of the time. And so you have to learn when your body is in that fight or flight mode and when you are pushing back because you're fearful of rejection or something along those lines. And it's hard to overcome that and push through it. It really is.
of course. Yeah, yeah. It's an exercise like everything else. If you do it on a daily basis, your brain starts to, oh, I didn't die today. Oh, I
Right.
didn't die when they say no. Oh, I didn't die when they list with someone else. It's okay. Because
Yeah.
the hormones that are released in your brain are exactly the same ones that you being chased by a bear. And it's like, oh, just tell my brain.
Yeah.
You have, through repetition, it comes, oh, I didn't die. It's
Right.
okay. So you can take it and take it and take it. But it has to be consistent, because unfortunately our brain, even if you got used to it, if you make a break of couple of talk only with your sphere, all of a sudden you're like back into what your brain knows, which is flight and fight. So it's a consistency that allows you to be on a long period of time productive in sales. Yeah, and deal with rejection and have a good emotional and stable state. Yeah.
One thing that I use when I'm trying to figure, like trying to control my emotions, and I feel like I'm getting worked up about something, whether good or bad, I always remind myself when emotions are high, logic is low. So like if I'm wanting to do something or cancel something, or I ask myself, okay, like am I being in an emotional state? Am I in a high state of mind? Am I in a low state of mind? Because then when you're in one or the other, your logic is low. So are you making an irrational decision based off of that high or low emotion? Because it can go both ways. I can be in a very high emotional state and I'm super excited and yeah, let's do this and let's do that. And next thing I know, I spend too much money doing something that I come back to reality. I'm like, well, that was stupid. I've done that many times. But it's also in the other direction when things are slow and things are stressful. Like, am I making these irrational, impromptu decisions based off of my low emotions or, irrational thinking? So that's one thing that I kind of say to myself when emotions are high, logic is low. Am I being emotional?
Yeah.
And that has seemed to
Yeah.
help. Sorry, it's slow. Oh, there we go. So that
Okay.
has seemed to help me kind of control my emotional intelligence or figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, tell me a
There
little
are
bit.
tools, and obviously,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, No, I was just affirming what you just said. It's so important because you do have your red flags that allow you to rationalize and kick in with your mind of logic rather than the emotion. Yeah.
Right. Right, big time. So now if somebody's interested in getting involved with your coaching, what could they do or where do they need to go?
Um, the pre-recorded academy and tons of resources are at www.buildallrealestate.com under Listing Academy. There's the one-on-one, but as of right now, I don't take applicants anymore, and for sure that's going to be the last year for one-on-one. But I do plan on having group coaching in the future, and I always have free resources, free webinars, low tickets webinars, resources. So my website will be where you find it, and also my Instagram. That's where I post everyday resources. That's where I post everything about events or anything that I do.
That's amazing. Well, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Andrea, for being very open, obviously, on your journey. It wasn't an easy one by any means, but you have made such an impact, I'm sure, not only in your own life and your daughter's life, but the agents that you have helped serve.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. And that wraps up another inspiring episode of the Real Moms Podcast. A huge thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their story and insights today. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And hey, sharing is caring, right? Share this podcast with your fellow mompreneurs, friends, and anyone who you feel could use a dose of inspiration. Share it on your social media as well. But most importantly, if you found this episode helpful, please, please, please leave me a 5-star review. This helps get our information out to those who have never heard or seen us before. Are you feeling inspired and you're sure that you could add some value to the podcast? Shoot me a message and let's talk. We love hearing from you. So connect with us on social media. Tag me at Shay J Spitz. That's ShaeJSpitz. And share your thoughts and takeaways, or even suggest topics you'd like to have us explore more in the future episodes. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Your resilience is your strength, and your pursuit of abundant living is truly remarkable. As always, keep thriving, keep growing, and keep embracing the beautiful chaos of being a mompreneur. Until next time, take care, stay real, and keep living abundantly.